and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Move over, Fat Tony. Move over, Marianne Williamson. We got another challenger, sucker, loser, dummy, challenger in the Democratic primary. I know, I'm the Democratic primary. It's one big nothing burger. Look, Marianne Williamson, Fat Tony, Cenk Uygur, and now Representative Dean Phillips. You three need to understand. If you're not paying attention, then you're choosing to ignore me and assume that you know better. And dare I say it, you're choosing to ignore all your critics. Or are you really that dumb? The Democratic Party has made it abundantly clear that they are a private institution that can select who they want as their nominee. The DNC has superdelegates, okay? And controversial statement in 3, 2, 1, the Republican primary is far more Democratic than the Democratic primary, especially in 2016, where Trump was more fairly elected by his voters than Hillary Clinton was, because the DNC has superdelegates. And even in the off chance, however unlikely, let's say Marianne Williamson, or now the new challenger, Representative Dean Phillips. I'm not going to add in Cenk Uygur because he don't count. He don't. He doesn't have Snowflake's chance in Vulcan's Forge, okay? Let's say Dean Phillips or Marianne Williamson were to get the proper amount of votes, the properly amount of votes to win. The DNC can legally say we don't accept the results and still select Joe Biden or whoever they want as their nominee. I want to pull up this video here, shot the case study QB who's wrongly being censored. Because now Dean Phillips, Representative Dean Phillips, launches a primary challenge against Joe Biden. Joe Biden. Hashtag who crapped my pants, Joe Biden.
President Biden has a new challenger, not from the Republican Party. Congressman Dean Phillips of Minnesota says he will be running against the president. He tells CBS News to launch his campaign today in New Hampshire.
Are you running for president?
I am. I have to. I think President Biden has done a spectacular job for our country.
All right. Shot himself in the foot. Look, maybe it's politics 101, but you got to get ready to fight your opponent, okay? Stop saying he's done a spectacular job. No, he didn't. Hey, let's have democracy in the chat. Let's have one for, oh, yeah, Biden did a great job. Every day is awesome. 3 square meals a day, full tank of gas. I'm doing great. Roof over my head. Type 2, Kit, please stop asking this. You know it costs $300 to go outside. Man, I don't know how I'm going to make it this minute or past the next half hour.
But it's not about the past. This is an election about the future. I will not sit still. I will not be quiet in the face of numbers that are so clearly saying that we're going to be facing an emergency next November.
With us now, CNN political commentator and Spectrum News political anchor Errol Lewis, as well as Bloomberg's Washington correspondent Anne-Marie Horner. It's great to have you guys at the table. Errol, this is not new that Dean Phillips has been saying that. I admire what Biden has done. He's gone as far as saying he saved the country from Trump, but he has consistently said the numbers aren't there in the polling.
So look, let's be very clear here. When I see somebody saying that Biden is doing a good job, I get flashbacks of Bernie Sanders saying that Biden is his good friend. I'm once again triggered by that, and I just can't help but bring this back up.
Oof, 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 oof.
I know, folks. I know. Already, Dean Phillips, you're dead in the water.
The age is an issue. So what do you make of him jumping in? What's it going to mean and do?
Well, look, first of all, that comment about the numbers is going to blow up in his face when we start looking at numbers that show overwhelmingly that people don't know who he is, what he stands for, or why they should vote for him. Numbers cut both ways. 50 plus years in politics and in national leadership by Joe Biden counts for a lot. It does mean something, and it will play out.
So look, let's be clear here. I want to pull up this video. And again, this is a problem. This is an article to trigger the liberals. the vote blue no matter who crowd. Biden's approval among Democrats drops to the lowest point of presidency. U.S. President Joe Biden's approval rating among members of his party has fallen by 11 percentage points to the lowest score of his presidency thus far, according to a Gallup poll published on Thursday. While Democrats usually give Biden near unanimously good ratings, the party has recently experienced some inner strife over the president's Israel policy. The survey found 75% of registered Democrats approve of the job Joe Biden is doing, down from 86% last month. In the same period, Biden's approval among independents fell 4 points from 39 to 35, while his approval among Republicans remained unchanged at 5%. Ha ha. Biden's overall approval rating now stands at 37%, down from 41% last month, and tied with the lowest score of his presidency record in April of this year. Presiding over an economy racked by high inflation and soaring energy prices and hammered by his opponents over record levels of illegal immigration and his handling of the conflict in Ukraine, Biden's rating has remained persistently low throughout the 3 years he has been in office. Gallup recorded at 57% approval high in January of 2021, while an aggregate of 5 major polls compiled by 538 recorded a peak of 55.3% in March of that year. Biden entered the White House with an approval rating of 98% among Democrats in January of 2021. Why was that? Because people couldn't think critically because they had Trump derangement syndrome. They were scared of Trump. That's how I view a lot of these liberals. That's how I view a lot of them. They were so happy that the orange boogeyman got defeated, but guess what? He's still running. And already 2 of his opponents have dropped out of the Republican primary. And surprise, surprise, goodness gracious, they decided to endorse him. Ain't that something? That number has remained above 80% for all but 3 months of his term, while Republicans' approval of the president has not risen above single digits since Biden oversaw a chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan in August of 2021. So in other words, this jagoff doesn't know what he's talking about. Let's rewind that again.
The age is an issue. So what do you make of him jumping in? What's it going to mean and do?
Well, look, first of all, that comment about the numbers is going to blow up in his face when we start looking at numbers that show overwhelmingly that people don't know who he is, what he stands for, or why they should vote for him. Numbers cut both ways. 50 plus years in politics and in national leadership by Joe Biden counts for a lot. It does mean something, and it will play out in the numbers. The fact that he's polling, the fact that he's got this tough question about his age and whether or not people think that's disqualifying for the president, absolutely valid questions. Is he the right person, the right messenger to bring it forward? It's hard to see how.
You talked about
again, the problem that Democrats have, the issue that the Democrats have is that they created this Joe Biden Frankenstein during the 2020 primary. Now, originally, and this is something that we have to point out, they did criticize the way Joe Biden was presenting himself, how he was speaking. And there was a point during the 2020 primary where they were looking at everyone from Bet on My Stork to Pete Buttigieg, the hidden Skaven, to Kamala the cop, to, hey, you better duck and dive, Amy Klobuchar's in the house. They kept on throwing whatever they could at the wall, see what could stick, none what could stick. And then, of course, everyone was triggered by Bernie Sanders. But again, Bernie Sanders is a cock, a nutless, spineless wonder. Everyone formed a shield wall around Joe Biden, and they elevated him up. And now they have to deal with him. And it's quite clear that he is showing and exhibiting signs of dementia and Alzheimer's. Something is not well with Biden. So when you say, hey, people don't know who he is, well, then here's a little controversial statement, Democrats and liberals. 3, 2, 1, force the debate. Have a debate. Now, it's unheard of for an incumbent to be at a debate, but at this point, Biden's got to prove himself. Can he hold himself in a debate? Just because he's not debating his Democratic primary challengers, he will have to debate the Republican winner, be it Donald Trump or whoever it will be. You just can't hide him forever, but that seems to be like a working tactic. Hide Biden. Make sure he doesn't speak too long.
White House folks, the campaign folks on a regular basis. Do they care? Are they concerned?
I mean, they're just shrugging this off as we don't care. It doesn't really matter. They will say, the other day, Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about this. She said, well, we're glad to see that he supported President Biden almost 100% of the time. And if you look at his voting record, he's always been behind the president and the president's goals. His issue really comes down to the president's age. Bloomberg and Morning Consult just ran a poll on the key swing states. It's really the only states you need to look at and actually care about. And Trump is leading in 5 of those 7 states. And all of this has to do with the deficit on the economy, that there's a trust deficit with Biden. So when he comes out today, he's not just going to hit inflation, the economy, but he almost sounds like a Republican if you look at some of these excerpts. He's going to go hard on the White House when it comes to the southern border as well as crime. So he's going to make a lot of noise for them, but the majority of the Democratic Party is backing Biden.
Which is pretty pathetic for the majority of the Democratic Party. You're supporting a guy who doesn't know where he's at. Let's pull on the rest of this article right here. The latest drop in approval among Democrats comes amid a growing division in the party over Biden's support for Israel. Amid the ongoing Israeli bombardment of Gaza, Biden visited Israel earlier this month to pledge that the U.S. would stand forever with the Jewish state and that he would push Congress to authorize $14 billion in military aid for the country. You know something, senators and House representatives, if this is so important to you, you personally fund it, okay? You personally raise a grand army, raise them up, train them, and I want you to be leading that assault yourself. Go ahead. Stop asking us to do this for you. Back in Washington, Democratic lawmakers from the party's progressive wing have been the sole voices of dissent against the policy on Capitol Hill. Speaking at a 1,000-strong pro-Palestinian rally last week, ethnically Palestinian Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib declared, President Biden, not all of America is with you on this one. You need to wake up and understand that we are literally watching people commit genocide. Let this be a lesson to you, progressive lawmakers. You decide to support Joe Biden, give up your integrity, give up your values, and you shouldn't be surprised that the Democratic establishment would do this to you. You should not be surprised at all. In fact, it is a big old, what I like to call,
oof, 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 oof.
The numbers aren't working well. And even to bring up Kamala Harris, because let's face it, let's say Biden doesn't remain the nominee. Let's say, he has to drop out due to health reasons. If we look right now, disapprove, 54.9%. With approval rating, this is from 538, of 38.8%. Kamala's numbers aren't looking too sharp. That's what you call a big old
oof, 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 oof.
So what can we take away from this? Well, Representative Dean Phillips is going in there to challenge Biden. Now, I think he's wasting his time because the DNC is a rigged primary. It's just one big nothing burger. I'm not expecting anything from a Democratic primary at this point in time because I've covered not one, but 2. All of you sat through the one in 2016 and 2020. There was an opportunity to really shake up the system, but Bernie Sanders chose not to do it. I don't know what Dean Phillips is trying to do here, but even I have to commend RFK Jr. for doing this, leaving the Democratic Party. I think his campaign is on somewhat more stable ground to maybe make an impact. But again, with everything that happened with the Cornel West campaign, who's to say? But Democrats, you created this. Liberal voters, if you think by voting in a Democratic primary you're making a difference, you're not. You're only participating. The establishment always will have the final say. So good luck. I'm not going to tell anyone else how to vote. It's your right to choose how you want to vote. If you want to vote Republican, vote Republican. If you want to vote Democrat, vote Democrat. If you want to vote independent, so be it. And if you want to stay home, you could do that as well. Because nothing's going to fundamentally change. And especially when you run in a primary that has showed itself to be inherently corrupt, good luck.